name of the country, but because we're not devotees are not supposed to go there. But we used to go sometimes, and it's an Islamic country. And we were giving classes, and one Mataji was coming every day to all of our classes, and she was wearing a burqa when she was coming. And I was very surprised because all the years I've been a devotee, I've never had a Mataji wear a burqa in our katas. But she was coming every day. And finally, at one point, I asked one of the devotees about it, and they said, oh, yes, that's such and such Mataji. She does namaz 5 times a day, does her Islamic practice. She wears a burqa, and she chants 16 rounds, the Hare Krishna mantra, every day. She's a devotee, but she has to follow this external system. Otherwise, people will kill her. But the Kanistha Bhakta can't appreciate that, because the Kanistha just sees things in a very external way. Vrindavan Das Thakur, he says that about this, that we should be very careful, because sometimes we see devotees disagreeing. You may be a new IYF member devotee, and you come to the temple, the center one day, and you see Tukaram Prabhu and Amritesh Prabhu having a quarrel. And they're arguing about something. I don't think they probably ever argue, I don't know, but maybe you see them quarreling about something, and they're disagreeing. And then you become very, very confused, and you think, well, I don't know, I like Tukaram Prabhu better. I don't like Amritesh. And so you take his side. Sadhu Sabadan. Vrindavan Das Thakur says, Nitya Sudha Gyanavanta Vaishnava Shakal Tabije Kalaha Deka Shaba Kutaha Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Nitya Sudha Gyanavanta Vaishnava Shakal. All the Vaishnavas, Nitya Sudha, they're always pure. They're always full of knowledge. But if you see some kolahala, some quarrel between them, then you should understand that that's just part of their pastimes. That it's not, you don't take it very seriously. But Vrindavan Das Thakur, he says, hey, sadhu sabadan, be careful. Ite eka janir hoy paksha jay, anya jani ninda kori chaya jaya say. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. If you take the side of one of those devotees, Ite Eka Janir, Hoya Paksha, and Anya Jani Nindakori, you start criticizing the other one. I like Tukaram, Amritesh, I don't appreciate him. They're quarreling. You don't have to take the side of those two devotees. You don't understand. When the Vaishnavas are quarreling, there's no real quarrel amongst the Vaishnavas. Their so-called quarrel is just better, how they can better serve Guru and Krishna. And so Vrindavan Das Thakur warns, Ihana bujiya kon buddhi nasha, eke bande aninde jaibeke nash. That someone, you lose your good intelligence, kon buddhi nash, and you don't understand this, and then you worship, you do vandana to one of them, and are ninda, you criticize the other one, jai beka nash, you're going to be destroyed. We should be very, very careful. There's differences amongst the Vaishnavas. There's differences amongst different followers. Here in Bhubaneswar, we glorify our revered spiritual master, Sri Srimad Gaur Govinda Maharaj. And devotees, sometimes they say he's the best, he's the only one. But why is he the only one? Krishna has so many devotees. Srila Prabhupada has so many devotees. They may say that out of love, just like the child says, my father is the best father. And he is the best father for that child. It's a fact. The child should always feel that his father is the best. But if he starts thinking that my guru is good and everybody else's guru is not good, then he's going to have problems. And Vrindavan Das Thakur says, what to speak of being envious of Vaishnavas, even if you start criticizing non-devotees. Vaishnava hingsara kata shatapuka dure, sahaja jivere jaya dhamma pira kore, Vishnu pujiya oje prajara pira kore, puja o nishfale jai duke mare. That what to speak, even if you're envious of Vaishnavas, if you cause pain to ordinary living entities, then Jedam Adama, Peter Kwari, you become Adama. You're a fallen, low-class person. And whatever puja, Vishnu puja, other things that you do, it becomes useless. And you just suffer unlimited miseries. Vrindavan Das Thakur explains it further. Sarva bhute achena Shri Vishnu najaniya Vishnu puja kore ati prakrita hiya. This is a Kanistha Bhakta. They don't understand Sarva bhute achena Shri Vishnu, that Vishnu is in the heart of all living entities. Everybody is a devotee of the Lord. The Lord is present in everyone's heart, and I have to respect everyone. And if you don't understand that, then you're a materialistic devotee. Even you may be worshiping the Lord. And your worship of the Lord is compared to, very interesting thing, he says, Eka haste jena vipra charana pakale ara haste dela mare mataya kopale. He says that just like someone, Eka haste, with one hand, Jena Vipracharana Pakala, you're washing the feet of a Brahmin with one hand. But Arahaste, with the other hand, De la Mare Mataya Kavale, you're hitting him on the head with the other hand. One hand you're worshiping him, and the other hand you're beating him. So that's like your worship of the Lord if you don't appreciate the devotees. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says some very strong things about this in many of his writings. In the introduction to Krishna Sanhita, he says a very startling thing. He says that sectarianism is a natural byproduct of the absolute truth. That when you have the absolute truth, just like you have a nice devotee, like Saurav Prabhu. Saurav, you like to eat prasadam? Yes? Yes? Yeah, okay. Very good. Prasadam is very good. Saurav is very good. But when Saurav Prabhu eats that prasadam, what's the byproduct of his eating that prasadam? We won't talk about that. It's something very bad happens in the bathroom, right? It's not a very nice thing. So similarly, the absolute truth, when it's given, something happens to it. There's some sectarianism. That's a natural byproduct of it. And Bhaktivinoda says that acharyas come and they understand the truth. And they see that certain people need to hear certain things at a certain place and time. And so they speak like that. And then that community grows up and yes, Gurudev told us this thing. And then they look at a different IYF group and they say, oh, our IYF group, we're getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and their group is not getting up until 4:30. Our group is better. We have better rules. But they don't understand that the IYF leader maybe told this other group, because you have to go to school early and you need rest, you should sleep in a little more, or whatever it may be. They may speak like that. They can't understand. They just see things in a very, very external way. And then they start developing hatred toward other groups. And they start thinking their standards are very low class. They can't see the essential quality is love of God. In one conversation in San Francisco that I read from Srila Prabhupada, he was saying that he started pointing at different devotees in the room. He said, I'm good, he's good, you're good, he's good. And he said, you're a Christian, you're a Muslim, you're a Hindu, he's good. He said, but you're all good. He said, but where is your love of God? So we don't care if you're a Muslim, you're a Hindu. Where is your love of God? That's the real standard. Not just what caste you belong to, what temple you go to, what external thing you belong to, but what kind of qualities do you have? How much can you appreciate other people? This is such a very, very important thing. And if you can't appreciate this, as Jiva Goswami says, then you can't preach. Because your idea of preaching is just going to be something sectarian. That you should join our group, that to join our group means you give so much money, that you dress in a certain way, that you attend certain functions on certain days of the week at certain times, and then you're a member. And if you don't do that, not only you're not a member, but you're not a good person. That's a Kanistha. You're going out there, you're not trying to promote love of God. You're not going out there to promote good qualities, but what you're going out there to promote is your sectarian vision of what it means to be whatever part of whatever group you're identifying with. Therefore, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in his book Sri Chaitanya's Life and Precepts, he says that Mahaprabhu declared that party spirit and sectarianism were two great enemies of progress. Prabhupada, in a letter I came across, it was a letter he wrote to Roland Michener, and ironically, I later met a devotee who used to work for Roland Michener. Roland Michener was the Governor General of Canada. Prabhupada wrote to him in 1968 a letter speaking to him about ISKCON and trying to get his support. And in his letter, he defined what is ISKCON. Now listen very carefully how he defined what is ISKCON. This may come as a little bit of a shock to some of you, because you're very pious, you're very wonderful devotees. You're born in this Utkal Desh. You're all Jagannath Premi. You all love Jagannath. You're very, very dear to Jagannath. You've grown up with this culture. And sometimes we think that this culture that I have means Krishna consciousness. Listen to what Prabhupada, how he defined ISKCON. He said, ISKCON is a non-lucrative organization. We're not out to make money. That's the first thing. Whose purpose is to promote the well-being of human society by drawing its attention to God. We are non-sectarian, and our members include people from Christian, Jewish, and Muslim, as well as Hindu faiths. The aim of ISKCON is not to found a new religious sect, but rather to invoke the living entity's dormant love of God. And he said, Prabhupada went on, he said that members of ISKCON can keep their respective faiths and still be a member. Like that lady who was coming in my classes in that Islamic country, and she's wearing a burqa. She couldn't give up Islam. They would kill her. She's practicing Islam, but she's also a devotee. Devotees in Kiev, Ukraine, were doing Harinam. We often go to Kiev. They were doing Harinam on the street one day, and they have a problem in those countries with the Russian Orthodox Church, and in Ukraine with the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. And the problem is that those are almost like state-sponsored religions, the Ukrainian Orthodox Church and the Russian Orthodox Church, although those two Orthodox churches don't get along. The Ukrainians say they're the best, and the Russians say they're the best. But anyway, they're always trying to persecute the devotees. So one day in the Harinam, there was an Ukrainian Orthodox priest in his robes standing and watching the kirtan. Like very amazed, very chamatkar. This is astonishing. Finally, one of the devotees came over to him and said, "Hey, would you like a book?" And gave him a Bhagavad Gita or something. And he took the book. A few days later, that priest came to the temple and said, "This is a really good book. Can you tell me something more about it?" He said, "Well, yeah." He started speaking to him. He started coming to the temple regularly. He started coming to the morning programs. After sometimes he would lead the kirtans. But he would always wear his Ukrainian Orthodox priestly robes. And he would go back to his church and give the sermon as an Ukrainian Orthodox priest. After some time, he got initiated. I think just first initiation. And he was chanting 16 rounds a day. But he still wore his Ukrainian Orthodox priestly robes. He can't give it up. And he would regularly give mass, or whatever they called it, in the church. After a few years of that, there was some pain bothering him in his body. He went to the hospital for a checkup. And the doctor came and said, "I have some bad news. You have stage 4 cancer. And you only have a few weeks to live." It's a true story. So he went to the devotees and said, "Can I stay in the temple?" And he was staying in the temple, and the devotees were doing kirtan around his body when he left his body. And I don't know, but maybe he had his Ukrainian Orthodox priestly robes on at that time. And I could tell you many stories like this. As our movement is gradually expanding in different countries, there are many people who become interested in it, but there are people who can't become a devotee We might call him a dhoti wala, someone who's wearing a dhoti and kurta. Maybe they can't wear tilak even, or kunti mala, but maybe they're chanting. Maybe they're very sincere. Maybe they're even initiated. But they can't give up the particular religion they're with for whatever reason. So a Kanistha Adhikari can't appreciate them. A Kanistha Adhikari won't want to speak of them, even if he meets someone from the Gaudiya Math or a Babaji Vaishnav, he can't appreciate them. He can't reconcile these two things. The Kanistha has two faults. One fault is that he thinks that my group is the only good group. The second fault is, though, that he criticizes the other devotees. Why don't you go to the Gaudiya Math temples? Why don't you go to the Babaji temples? We should just be open-minded with everybody and love everybody. Why are we only with our group? He can't understand. Just like a small child, when a child is a 3-year-old child, the parents tell him, stay inside our property here. Don't go outside the fence. And the 3-year-old child says, why not? Right in front of their house is a big street, busy street. And the parents, what are they going to tell them? Well, you may get hit by a car, a dog might bite you, someone may kidnap you, someone might hurt you, someone might give you some poisonous candy. There's so many things that could happen. But they can't tell them that. The parents just say something very simple. They say, because everyone on the other side of the fence is bad. And the child says, oh, okay. And so he's standing on his side of the fence. And when someone's walking on the other side of the fence, the little 3-year-old boy shakes his finger at them and says, you're bad, you're bad. What do the people do when they hear that? They laugh. It's very cute when a 3-year-old child does that, isn't it? Now, if that child grows up and is a 35-year-old man and he's still standing on that side of the fence, still shaking his finger at everybody like that, you're bad because my father told me you're bad. What kind of thing is that? That's sick. We can have friends. You have friends who are non-devotees. We should learn properly how to deal with them and not be like a Kanistha. When I first moved into the temple, I was such a fanatic. I moved into the temple in Los Angeles in 1982, and the first thing I did, I made a phone call to my mother. And my mother hadn't seen me in a long time. How are you doing? And I said, the first thing I told her, I said, Mom, repeat after me. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I said like that. And my mother started crying. Oh, my son's become a fanatic. He's become a cult member. Because I was so harsh and so stupid. I couldn't appreciate that she's my mother. I should love her and speak to her in a very gentle, respectful way, which fortunately, by Guru Maharaj's mercy, I got a little bit of intelligence and did later on. And later she started chanting japa and things, but not because of my fanatical behavior like that. So the nature of a Kanistha is he thinks that two things. He thinks only our group is good, or he thinks alternatively that the devotees, if they say don't go to other people outside, then they're sectarian, they're bad. But everybody says like that. All the Babajis tell their followers, don't go outside to other groups. All the Gaudiya Maths, I know that. I have many friends. When we do our research, I've met many people. They all tell their followers don't go outside because all the parents tell the 3-year-old child, don't go outside the fence because you don't know what's going to happen. You want to help nourish that child. But our Guru Maharaj, he had friends amongst the Gaudiya Math. He had friends with the Babajis. But he was still always very, very sincere and very vexed with ISKCON. Radhanath Maharaj, privately, he once told me, he said, Madhavananda, he said, I'm from different sadhus outside of ISKCON. He says, but I have a right to do so because I'll never leave ISKCON. I'll never leave Srila Prabhupada. It's natural to have friends with people. It's natural to be respectful of everyone. It's natural to be respectful of all devotees. We should be like that. We should love them and appreciate them. But we should also be nishtha to our Gurudev, to Srila Prabhupada and Srila Prabhupada's Seva Sangha. Not in a fanatical neophyte way like the Kanishthas, but in a healthy way. Srila Prabhupada was not a fanatical person. Ambarish Prabhu tells a story. I know we're getting a little over time. I'd like to tell 2 stories if I can. Is that okay, Tukaram? Is that all right? Okay. Okay,
Yes,
this is
Prabhuji.
Ambarish Prabhu. Told the story that in Hawaii, he was there with Srila Prabhupada once, and Yogi Bhajan. Does everybody know who Yogi Bhajan is? Very famous Sikh personality. Yogi Bhajan came to visit Srila Prabhupada. And in those days, Yogi Bhajan, he had a lot of followers, and he was trying to invite all different types of religious leaders to some international peace conference. And he was trying to get Srila Prabhupada to come to that. And Prabhupada told him that there's never going to be any world peace unless everybody agrees that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and everything belongs to Krishna. Mm-hmm. So Yogi Bhajan was a little disappointed. And he left because Prabhupada wouldn't accept his point. But after he left, Ambarish Prabhu says that Prabhupada made a comment. Listen to what he said. Prabhupada said that because Yogi Bhajan and his men were Sikhs, they should become members of ISKCON. He said they should be the Kshatriyas, or the Kshatriyas, of ISKCON. Even though there's big philosophical differences between us and them, Prabhupada was thinking, Ambarish Prabhu said, how to bring them into Krishna's family. He was always trying to bring other people into Krishna's family. This is Prabhupada's vision. This is Prabhupada's mood. He's not sectarian. He's not just harsh and hating other people, but he's able to appreciate everyone. Deho nata jeta jeta, according to that position, the person's position. This is another conversation that Srila Prabhupada had with some devotees in Chicago in 1975. And one of the devotees was describing a problem to Prabhupada. And he said, Prabhupada, in Winnipeg, he said, there's some very pious East Indian man, maybe he's from Orissa, I don't know, maybe West Bengal, in Winnipeg, Canada. And for many years, he's been worshiping Lord Shiva. And his wife's very chaste, she's very sincere. Her parents are all followers of Lord Shiva. And now this man started reading your Bhagavad Gita. And he comes, he visits the temple. He said, I gave him the first volume of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, which speaks about Lord Shiva. And he read in one of your purports that Krishna is more pleased when you worship his devotee than when you worship him directly. And that Lord Shiva is a great devotee of Krishna. So this man now, he's got this misunderstanding, the devotee says, that if he worships Lord Shiva, then he's pleasing Krishna. And he's experiencing some difficulty because of this, and I'm not quite sure how to instruct him. And Prabhupada became a little kind of confused. And Prabhupada said, but if he accepts that Lord Shiva is a devotee of Krishna, then by worshipping Lord Shiva, he'll be benefited. And the devotee said, yes, Prabhupada, I've got him to accept that Lord Shiva is a devotee of Krishna, but there's no practical instruction for him in his worldly activities. And Prabhupada said, no, Vaishnavanam yata Shambhu. Among all the Vaishnavas, Shambhu, Lord Shiva, is the greatest. We worship him. We give respect to Vaishnavas, so why not Lord Shiva? He's a big Vaishnav. And then the devotee says, but Prabhupada, he doesn't chant Hare Krishna. He chants Om Shivaya Namaha. That was his Brahmastra weapon to criticize this man. And Prabhupada said, that's all right. And the devotee became really confused. And he said, that's all right. And Prabhupada says, he will gradually become a devotee. When God, Lord Shiva, Brahma called Lord Shiva God, when God, Lord Shiva, will be pleased with him, then he'll advise him to worship Krishna. And then the devotee says, well, Prabhupada, he's been trying to follow in your footsteps. Just before I left, he said he's going to try again to chant 16 rounds of japa. And Prabhupada said, if he just understands that Lord Shiva is a Vaishnav, and he worships Lord Shiva, then he'll get benefit. So try to understand how broad-minded the Vaishnavas are. Try to understand the difference between the mentality of the Kanistha Bhakta, who's a Prakrita Bhakta, who's a materialistic devotee, who only sees things in terms of the external dress, the external society and things. And he can't give respect to devotees, other devotees, and what to speak of common persons. So Srila Prabhupada, as we read from that letter to Satsvarup Maharaj, Prabhupada said that we should not remain a neophyte devotee. Devotees in our society should not remain in the neophyte position. We should learn to give respect to other persons. So this is our purpose. This is the purpose of ISKCON. This is the purpose of our ISKCON Bhubaneswar temple. This is the purpose of IYF. This is the purpose of the Life Mentorship Program. The purpose is not just to make you give money. The purpose is not just to get you to come and live in the hostel and to become a member and have an ISKCON IYF t-shirt or something. That's not our purpose. Our purpose is to change your consciousness, to make you into a genuine Mahatma. And a Mahatma is someone who appreciates everyone. And we need people like that. There are so many Kanistha followers of religion in this world, and they're all arguing, our religion is the best. Hinduism is the best, Christianity is the best, Islam is the best, Buddhism is the best, ISKCON is the best, Hare Krishna is the best, and if you don't believe that, then I spit in your face. It may be the best. Doesn't mean it's not the best. It may be the best, but it's not the best just because you belong to it. That's the mentality of the Kanistha Adhikari. So I've gone really over time. I want to stop there. In our next session, we're going to begin to speak something about the Madhyam Adhikari, the difference between the Kanistha and the Madhyam. And the primary differences we'll see is that the Madhyam is able to give respect to the devotees. The Madhyam is not so expert in Shastra, but he has firm faith in respecting the devotees because he's seen his Gurudev respect other devotees. He's seen higher Vaishnavas respect other devotees. And therefore he has some faith in the devotees. So I'm going to stop there. And I'm hoping that maybe today Saurabh will have some comment. Or maybe Satyam Prabhu or Roshan or all of you. This is why you're here. Padmakshi Prabhu, Dilip, Prakash. That some of you, maybe you won some prize. You got something today and you can share with us what you walked away with. But before we do that, we should turn to Tukaram Prabhu and Amritesh, our senior saintly persons, and ask if you have any reflections or comments you want to add. Anything. Amritesh Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you for the wonderful discussion we had just now in your class. One thing I liked, many things I liked. One thing I liked it, how we should be so broad-minded. It was the conclusion of today's discussion. And that Ukrainian devotee example, and also through that Mataji who was coming for your class and chanting her japa too. So these shows that how our Vaishnava culture should be so broad-minded. And one devotee was sharing that how that is one thing. And another thing is that how you told that a devotee needs to appreciate others in order to preach. You told Jiva Goswami has mentioned this. And there one devotee was telling that Prabhupada would meet many persons. When he would meet any particular person, he would first ask questions about his business, his career, and then that person would become so close to Prabhupada. And then Prabhupada would tell, all right, chant Hare Krishna. So in this way, people get attracted. Like if you speak to a person who is a car racer, Prabhupada would ask which car you are driving, how much cc it is, all these questions. So then that person would become more interested. And I had one little question that, is there any such reference about this point, how preaching means appreciating others? Do we have some references from Srila Prabhupada books also? I agree that there would be, but if you have found out some.
I cited these examples from Chaitanya Bhagavat and also Prabhupada in his commentary on CC Madhya 2274. You can look that up, where he speaks about the Kanistha Adhikari. And you can also look in our BBT Bhagavatam for 11th Canto, Chapter 2, Text 47. That's where they cite this commentary from Jiva Goswami that the Kanistha Adhikari can't preach because he's not able to give respect to other Vaishnavas.
Yeah.
And also the Chaitanya Bhagavat, I think you noted that, Amritesh Prabhu.
Adi Leela.
Yeah, that's a very, very powerful section. We shouldn't just. If I see you and Tukaram Prabhu arguing, I hope you two of you never argue. I see the two of you arguing. I think anyway, it's out of love. It's some higher purpose that they're arguing for. Or what to speak of you two if I see some Prabhupada disciples arguing. I see Gurudev arguing with somebody. That's much more difficult to deal with. And some people will think, oh, Gurudev is good, the other person is bad. Don't think like that. Be very, very careful. It's his god brother. And he can argue with them. But it's all out of love.
But Prabhu, probably we don't know. Now that we know this philosophy, so we will not look like this when we see some seniors talking like this amongst each other. But when we don't know this, naturally our mind will come that let me side with somebody.
Yes.
So,
and that's why the point about Shastra is so important. We can't just be lazy, easygoing devotees who just come to the IYF for nice prasadam and fun kirtans. But we should also be studying Shastra and trying to think about Shastra, considering it in different ways and trying to apply it. Otherwise, we'll have problems.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you. Prabhu, one more thing I'll say, and that is that you told that how I also heard it. Guru Maharaj means Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj. He used to say that if somebody is not quoting his references, then that means it's bogus. So then how sometimes we may not quote the Sanskrit verses, but if we quote Srila Prabhupada books, purports, or some small books, so is that equivalent to that reference which Gurudev is asking for?
You read Srila Prabhupada's books. Sometimes Prabhupada says that one should surrender everything to Krishna, even give up all types of religion and just surrender to Krishna, and Krishna protecting. Well, Prabhupada's paraphrasing Gita 1866, right? Sarva dharmam parityaga. Maybe he's not quoting a shloka. Maybe he doesn't give the exact reference, but many, many times in his books, Prabhupada does like that. That's also required. But at the same time, it's important. In Bhubaneswar in 1977, when Prabhupada was visiting here, one of the comments that he made in his classes, he said that the duty of the Acharya is Sampradaya Rakshana. That's a comment that he gave. We should protect the Sampradaya. So how do we protect our Sampradaya? One way we protect our Sampradaya is by keeping the original Sanskrit shlokas there, by quoting them. It's important. And we may not just give the whole class in Sanskrit, like some shloka wala or something like that, like the professor that I met in the car going to the program. What's the value of that? But someone maybe like Vishnu Jan Maharaj or what's his name? His name's not coming to my mind. Some of the early devotees of Prabhupada who didn't understand shlokas very much, couldn't pronounce verses very well, but they had so much love for Prabhupada. They appreciate. That's a Madhyamadikari, and he may be a higher Madhyam. There's a Kanistha Madhyam, a Madhyam Madhyam, and an Uttam Madhyam. I'm not going so deeply into this topic. Everybody will die. It will take us a long, long time to go through all this. But there's 3 levels of Kanistha, there's 3 levels of Madhyam, and 3 levels of Uttam. And according to how much appreciation they have for Shastra, how much they understand Shastra, how much faith they have in that, how they treat the devotees. I like that. So yes, I thoroughly agree with you. The main thing is, in fact, that we imbibe, that we appreciate some principles of Prabhupada's books rather than just being able to parrot them. I want to stop and let's go on with Saurav Prabhu. Is that okay? Thank you very much, Amritesh Prabhu. And Saurav Prabhu, can you tell us, did you win a prize today? What did you get?
Yes, Prabhuji, first of all, like Dandvat Pranam. And like, it was a very enchanting session because I learned a lot and like, you kept us engaged all the time. So basically, I had 3 learnings basically. Like the first is that as a Kanistha Adhikari, we always try to act as an exalted devotee because lack of due to our lack of scriptural knowledge. And second is that just scriptural knowledge is not going to help us unless we have that surrender, unless we have faith in the words of Vaishnavas. And so we have to develop that. And the third is we have to be broad-minded. That means we have to answer queries according to the needs, according to the position of the person, as you have given so many great examples. So that's about it. And I look forward to your association. I really enjoyed the session today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. You're not going to go and call your professor a hog, dog, camel, or ass, are you?
No, I'm not going to do.
You know what I learned in IYF? You're just a dog. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very
much. Okay, let's see. Who else is there? Sachin, did you have your hand? Tukaram Prabhu, do you have any other comment? Anybody else with any reflections they want to share?
Maybe Roshan wanted to share something.
Roshan Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
My pranams.
Prabhu, actually, first of all, thank you very much for this wonderful class. So, some points which I liked today was we shouldn't remain neophyte devotee forever. So, and next is that the point that you shared about whenever we see devotees quarreling, especially our senior devotees, so we should not judge them. And usually we face this because in between IVF meeting, we have to deal with many situations, and this point will help us in future very much. And Proji, I want to ask one question. Like you said that we don't have to become a parrot of Shastras. Means we shouldn't speak Shastras in a just mug it up and just speak it. We have to realize it. But Proji, even if someone just reads the Shastras just to take knowledge, he will easily get to know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But still we find in our society that there are many people who have learned, who know Shastras and who have read Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, but still they are going towards means they think that God has no form. So how is this possible?
Because they haven't come in touch with the Bhakta Bhagavat. And therefore, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita and the Chaitanya Bhagavat, Mahaprabhu says, Dulistani Bhagavati. There's two Bhagavats. And we have to hear the Grantha Bhagavat, the book Bhagavat, from the Bhakta Bhagavat, from the devotee Bhagavat. Otherwise, we may have some misunderstanding. We have to go through we were speaking in some of our earlier sessions. It's not enough just to read the books by themselves. Prabhupada said in one lecture in Bombay, he said that one may have read Bhagavad Gita 100 times, he may have read it 1,000 times, but he won't understand a single word unless he's approached Guru. We have to take shelter of Guru, otherwise we can't understand Shastra. It's not possible. Because Shastra is Krishna. It's not easy to understand Krishna, but we think it's easy to understand Shastra. But Shastra is the incarnation of Krishna. Mm-hmm. So that Shastra will reveal itself to us when we please Shastra, when we please Krishna by serving Gurudev. Yasya prasada bhagavat prasada yasya prasada nagati katopi. When we please Gurudev, then Krishna becomes pleased and Shastra will manifest itself. So this is a problem. Theoretical persons who they may want to have a PhD in Srimad Bhagavatam, and they studied Sanskrit and they studied so many commentaries, but they don't understand a single word. They can't begin to practice because they're not surrendering to a devotee. And therefore in the Adi Purana, Krishna tells Arjuna, Ye me bhakta jana parta, na me bhakta sate jana, mad bhaktanam cha ye bhakta ste me bhakta tamomata. That person who says he's my devotee, he's not my devotee. In other words, someone may say he's a devotee of Srimad Bhagavatam, but he's not a devotee of Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna said, only that person is a devotee of my devotee. He's my real devotee. So we do so many things. We chant Tapa. We were associated with Krishna directly. We do Kirtan. We read Srimad Bhagavatam, which is Krishna. Take prasadam with Krishna. We do all those things, but we don't have qualification to come to associate with Krishna directly. Just like Roshan, let me give you an example. What if one day I came running into your room and I said, Roshan, it's amazing. Krishna is outside the room and he wants to talk to you. So what will you do? What will you do?
Go outside.
You'll go outside and do it. And what are you going to say to him?
Mahadev,
How's it
initially,
over?
I would not believe in your words. Yes.
I can tell you
I
for
not feel
myself,
that
I won't
really
go.
it is. Yeah.
For myself, I won't go there. But I'll get my Guru Maharaj, and I'll put my Guru Maharaj in front of me. Because my Guru Maharaj can associate with Krishna. My relationship with Krishna is through my Guru Maharaj, not independent of my Guru Maharaj. I'm going to put my Guru Maharaj in front and let him go to Krishna first. Otherwise, what am I going to say? I'm a conditioned soul. I'm going to say, yeah, what about those pretty girls in Vrindavan? How are they doing? What's the weather like there? You know, how are your parents? Is your health okay? What am I going to say to him from the heart? That's genuine. I can mimic some verses or something. I go behind my Gurudev. So whatever we do, we're chanting japa. Tate Krishna Bhari Kore Guru Sevan. That Krishna bhajan that we're doing, that japa, that's my Guru Seva. I'm taking prasadam. What do I do before I take prasadam? I offer obeisances to Gurudev. Before I chant japa, I offer obeisances to Gurudev. When I get up in the morning, I offer obeisances to Gurudev. When I go to the artik, I offer obeisances before the artik to Gurudev. Before I do tulsi puja, before I all these things, because I'm asking Gurudev, you please use me and let me offer this thing to you. This is a service to you. I can't do any of these things independent of Krishna's devotee. All of these things are non-different from Krishna. Krishna says that someone who approaches me directly, he's not my devotee. Think about it. It has very deep power. We're always thinking, we just chant japa, we just go to Tulsi Puja. We can't go directly on our own. Does that make sense, Roshan? You understand that?
Yes, Prabhu.
You okay now?
Yes. Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, thank you, Roshan Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Anybody else? Any reflections? Anything? Okay.
I had a small
see,
reflection. Okay, I had a small reflection. I thought I'd keep it up if anybody else is not there. So yeah, earlier days when I used to go to Mayapur with some of the devotees of Kolkata, those days we used to go to the Yogpit, which is the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's birthplace, and that place is that used to be the old construction. You might have seen that now before 4 or 5 years. So that construction was very we could feel that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is born at that place, and there we developed relation with few of the devotees there. When we used to go, every time they would serve us prasad and they would give us some sweet rice. So I never took it wrongly, and later I wanted to clarify it with some devotees. I clarified also later that should I help them if sometimes they come to Kolkata for some medical treatment and all. Then the devotee said, yes, we should help them. And at the same time, we should be loyal to our parampara, our guru, Srila Prabhupada. Like that. I also confirmed this today from you.
I'm so happy to hear that. That's the attitude of a mature devotee. The attitude of an immature devotee is, if someone comes to the temple and you think they're a wealthy person, then you're very happy, right? Because you want him to give a big donation. And then you speak to them and you find out he's from the Gaudiya Mutt or something. And then you're cold with him. Well, you should go away. This is the ISKCON temple. Go away. That's a very, very bad attitude. A very good attitude is when you find out that someone is from the Gaudiya Mutt or something, you become very excited. And you think, oh, this is my chance to please Sri Krishna Balaram. Because here's this guest, he's an outsider in our come to our temple. Now let me treat him in a very wonderful way that will please him. And that I'm representing my guru. I'm representing Srila Prabhupada. And they'll be pleased that I'm treating this guest with so much respect and affection. That's a wonderful way to behave.
And after initiation, when I went back to that place to tell that Prabhuji I got initiated, he had become sannyasi that time. And then when I told that I have got initiated now in ISKCON, then he was so happy. Then I was also happy because they are also appreciating that we are becoming closer to our Krishna consciousness. We are also moving deep So he was also happy. Then I was also happy that they are also appreciating us. So why should not we appreciate? In that way, I can.
It's a funny thing. I'm little friends with some scholars, and I spoke with a lot of people who do interfaith dialogue. It's becoming popular in the world. In ISKCON, we do a lot of interfaith dialogue. We meet with Muslims and Christians and different groups, Sikhs and like that. And also, there's Christians who are doing the same thing. And other different religious groups also. But one comment that Krishna Chaitanya, who's our PhD from Oxford, made to me, he said, you'll find that amongst these interfaith dialogues, it's very rare that you'll have the Protestants and the Methodists having a meeting, or the Protestants and the Catholics. They're all three of those are Christians, but they're different factions amongst the Christians, and they disagree very strongly. When I was a young boy, my family were Baptist Christians. And at some point when I was about 8 years old, my parents decided to become Methodists. I can't even tell you what the difference between the Methodists and the Baptists is, but I remember my grandmother cried for several days and said, you're all going to go to hell because you're no longer a Baptist, you become a Methodist. So this is something like devotees also who say, oh, you're a Gaudiya Math devotee, you're bad. You're an ISKCON devotee, you're good. That's such a shallow attitude. They're devotees of Krishna. We should respect all. We should respect the Pandits. We should respect the Brahmins. We should respect and love everyone. But as you said nicely, our family we should especially be faithful to. It's a very important point, and it requires some maturity. So I hope we can do that nicely today. It's a very
Hare
sensitive
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji, I have a question. If you have time.
Sure.
Prabhuji, your voice is breaking. Hare Krishna.
Hi, Krishna.
Yeah.
Are you there?
Yeah.
I can hear you.
And how to deal with someone who is trained in ISKCON and gets initiated from some Babaji in Vrindavan somewhere? What should be our attitude toward that kind of person?
Yeah. By the nature of your question, just it implies that there's going to be some hesitancy, some reservation on the part, right? It's natural. Someone who was very close, but it depends on that devotee. I have friends who left and went to different groups, and some of them, our friendship pretty much stopped in years, and I never see them again because they're such fanatics. If I see them, they only want to say bad things about ISKCON, and I won't tolerate that. I'm not going to hear bad things about the mission. But if someone is a little mature and they're not critical, and even they're appreciative, they can say some appreciative things about ISKCON devotees, and they're not envious, then that's a nice thing, that I can still be their friend. At the same time, yeah, it's a little, it's not exactly the same, right? Because we always have this feeling, you left, you were part of things, we were part of a team before, there's that camaraderie, we were part of this team, now you've gone somewhere else. But we should be mature, just like a parent. When the parent is raising their children, the parent tells the children, you do like this, you listen to what I say. But then when the children grow up, they say, Dad, you're a Hare Krishna, but I want to become a Muslim. I want to become a Christian. I want to eat meat. I don't want to be a devotee. So what do? You can't force your children. You can't tell them, you're my children, I hate you. You can say that, I hate you, I'll never see you again. But that's your loss and that's your foolishness. Rather, you should love them. And you're always trying to encourage them, please chant, please follow principles, please read the Bhagavatam, please, come to the temple and that. You love them. You're a little sad that they've done that, but you still love them. I think we should be like that. We can't control people. When we have this attitude that just because someone joined the IYF, you belong to me now. A preacher should never think like that. That's a kind of violence. Just like, when you joined the Hare Krishna movement, I don't know how your parents were, or your grandparents, or your aunts and uncles. Some people may have been angry and upset. because they have this feeling like, I own you. You belong to me. You belong to our family. You don't dare do this. And that hurts your heart. And it causes some difference between you, some distance. So our purpose is not just, we want to push on Prabhupada's mission. We want to make the ISKCON Bhubaneswara temple strong financially, in terms of manpower with devotees and pujaris and all those things. That's part of our purpose, but our primary purpose is to spread love of God and to spread this understanding. And if someone gets something, they come for 2 days. They come for 2 or 3 days to our temple, and they walk away and they say, I don't like those people, but I like that mantra. That's a nice mantra. We should be happy. They got something from us. Or maybe I don't like anything you guys do, but I like prasadam. And we're very happy. If they take even one thing, we should be very, very happy. But if we start treating them like, now you've offended us, now you're a traitor. We own you. You came, and so we owned you. You belong to us. And now you've left. You become an offender. That's a very, very neophyte, offensive attitude. It's a fine line, because we want to belong to Gurudev. We want to belong to Srila Prabhupada. We want to belong to all the devotees. Tukaram Prabhu, I want to belong to you. I want to belong to Amritesh Gaur Prabhu. I want to be a team member like that, who works together. That's community. But at the same time, sometimes people, they go a different way for whatever reason. It may be a good reason or a bad reason, but we should still love them and remember the past. That's my humble perspective of that, Prabhu. Do you want to add anything to that, Tukaram Prabhu?
No problem.
Actually, Prabhuji, his point was that sometimes we see that devotees are connected to multiple communities inside the Vaishnava Sampradaya also. And,
right.
And at the same time, they are connected to ISKCON. And even if they are connected to ISKCON, they get initiated from some places which are not so authorized. So at that point of time, naturally, our respect for those people little reduces.
Yeah. We feel a little
that's what Tukaram. Yeah, that's what Tukaram was sharing.
But at the same time, go ahead, Tukaram Prabhu.
No problem, please.
At the same time, I don't want to mention names. It would be a little embarrassing. But I can tell you about 2 very large temples in ISKCON where leading managers, top managers, are initiated by gurus outside of ISKCON. And they're getting along just fine. There's no problem whatsoever. They don't canvass for their guru. They never ever criticize Hare Krishna. They're full team members, and they love the local persons who are initiating, and they work with the devotees and things. There's no problem. Just they happen to get initiated by someone else. We have to see how devotees behave. It's the behavior that's important, not the external initiation, not the external dress. I always tell this to devotees. Devotees sometimes have asked me in different places in the world, where we're having this festival, and should we allow devotees to come who are from some other Vaishnav group? Should we allow them to come to the festival? And you know what I tell them? It's a little shocking maybe, but I tell them the standard should be if they don't cause trouble. If they're a positive, loving person, then there's no problem. But if they cause trouble, they may be an ISKCON devotee, they may be a Prabhupada disciple, they might be a GBC. But if they're coming to our festival and they're criticizing your Guru Maharaj, they're criticizing my Guru Maharaj, they're criticizing ISKCON Bhubaneswara, they're causing trouble, then we may go to them and say, Maharaj, please, I think maybe it's better you don't come to the festival. That's what we'll have to do. But somebody else who may be initiated, once I remember being in Sweden, Stockholm, and there was one lady who was coming every day to all my classes, and it turned out she was initiated by the Mahant at Radhakund, and she liked my classes so much, and she was coming every day, and she was a very simple person. She never criticized anyone. She was just happy to be with devotees who were chanting Hare Krishna. They have some little different philosophical understandings in some ways, but mostly it's the same. And the devotees there, I was very happy to see, made her feel loved and welcome. So, because she wasn't causing trouble. But other people come, and I've seen it. They come and they say, your gurus are bad, ISKCON is bad, this and that. then we just have to tell them, look, I'm sorry, please forgive me, we love you, but you're not helping things here. You're causing problems, and we have to ask them to leave, isn't it?
Yes,
The two of you are managers.
Yeah.
You've dealt with this kind of thing.
Yeah, we were looking for this thing only because like if somebody is coming and started to like if somebody is coming from outside group to our IY and now secretly they started preaching our IY boys against ISKCON, so then we have to sometimes take strong action against them.
You have
So
to.
that cannot be tolerated. Yeah.
Yeah, we can't tolerate that. Zero tolerance for that. This is our mission. This is Prabhupada's mission, and we want to protect it. Not just that we're sentimental, but at the same time, I can tell you another story. One good friend of mine, he used to be, better I don't mention names of places, he was a Bhakta leader in one big temple in Europe. And at that time, in that country in Europe, ISKCON was considered to be a cult. And it was on a cult list, and everybody criticized it in the news and everything like that. And this devotee, he was the Bhakta leader, he practically single-handedly was responsible for getting ISKCON off that list. And how did he do it? He started going to those Christian priests who are the anti-cult people, and the psychiatrists and the angry people who are angry with ISKCON. And he would go to them and say, excuse me, sir, my name is such and such, and I'm in charge of training the new people in our temple, and I'd like to invite you to come and give a talk to the new people about ISKCON. Would you like to do that? and the people, I'm not suggesting that you do this, Tukaram, don't get me wrong, but it's a very interesting story. The people looked at him and said, are you serious? I don't like ISKCON. That's okay. We'd like to hear you. Come, you speak. And he went, okay. Very good. And so he came, and he said all devotees and temple and everything. And our friend just nodded his head and said, thank you very much. And here's a small gift. Thank you for coming. And here's some nice present. And thank you so much. We appreciate it. And then he would leave. And then my friend would turn to the new devotees and say, so what did you think? What did you think about his presentation? He didn't try to hide them or keep them away from the criticism or anything. And those new devotees, he told me, every time they would say, that person's a nonsense. He was such a jerk. He was this and that. and finally what happened, he kept doing that. And those people, the anti-cult people, after a while, actually these ISKCON people are really nice. And they took them off the list. And he never lost any devotees from the Bhakta program. Now, it's a controversial thing that he did. I'm not suggesting it. And the local authorities, the local ISKCON authorities didn't appreciate it. There was some controversy about it. But time, place, and circumstance we may do. We can't imitate that. He was a very expert devotee, could deal with certain people.
Like Prabhuji, we sometimes do like that. Like we send our boys to different spiritual organizations to learn their philosophy. You go and see. So when they they come back to ISKCON, they are more convinced because now they can understand that where other practices have no philosophical background and no gravity. So they become more convinced. So yeah, this works sometimes.
Very good. And it forces us, Tukaram Prabhu, also as preachers, to have more substance. It forces us to quote Shastra and not just to be a cult. And just, we're good because we're ISKCON. And I just talk about ISKCON Katha. No, we speak Krishna Katha. We speak Shastra Katha. We speak Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. And we do that with pride for Srila Prabhupada, for our Guru Janas, to show, to please them. I know you always do that. I see all the books behind you. Okay. Anybody else with anything before we stop? It's so late. Okay. Saurav Prabhu, you're okay? Thumbs up? Thumbs down?
Yes, Prabhuji. All good.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I want
Hare
to
Krishna.
lastly thank you about the disciple course. Actually, you have given a lot of efforts in the disciple course making. I have seen that in the book. It was there in the introduction. Anuttam Prabhu wrote about you. And another thing is you also wrote about this point of appreciating how to welcome and respect the other Vaishnava devotees. You have written the standard. You quoted two things of Prabhupada. One point is that we should welcome them, we should offer them nice prasadam, nice place to stay, but we should not hear from them. That is the ultimate thing Prabhupada gave. You have, I think you have contributed. Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Amitesh.
Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
It's a nice topic. I really appreciate Prabhu and yourself, how you're treating the devotees with so much respect. One devotee once told me, he says, different types of devotees, and he's one of them called them mushroom devotees. And a mushroom devotee means we keep them in the dark and we feed them a bunch of poop. That's a mushroom devotee. So we don't. I see you
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, your voice broke down. Like we could not hear anything. You're telling on
So
mushroom
you're not
devotees.
treating. Yeah, mushroom devotee means someone you keep them in the dark and you just feed them a bunch of poop. So we don't want to be like that. We want to treat the devotees with respect and treat them as adults.
Maybe some network issue. So we'll keep here.
Okay. So yeah, I think we should stop. I need to go and have some job. Thank you very much, Prabhu. At least a week I get to see your face and Amitesh face gives me some happiness.
Voice is okay.
Can you hear me?
Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhuji. Like now we can hear you.
Yeah, just Amitesh face and gives me some happiness in this terrible pandemic time. And tomorrow also we have a special program. We'll get the
Samvit आप बंद कर सकते हैं मैं प्रोग्राम मैसेज कर दूंगा हरे कृष्ण